exact progress. It should be here in something like a little over an hour at this point. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip things a little bit and bring on the first student panel. What I will do is, what I will do is I will first introduce Haiyan, who will be then introducing the various students and moderating the panel. I should say when I first became CAPS director, a number of the students who were graduating from the program were students who hadn't taken any of my classes. And so I didn't really, I could see from afar how impressive they were, but it wasn't based on day-to-day interactions. And in the time since I've been so closely associated with CAPS, I've just really been tremendously impressed time and time again. And for me, really, the culmination of this was last January. I spent 2 weeks on a CAPS cross-listed course called Chinese Empire and the Cambodian Experience, which is a 2-week course in Cambodia. Fully half of the students were CAPS students. And that made it really easy for us when we trespassed. Can I say trespass? when we liberally interpreted the absence of a gate on a construction site that was a Chinese construction site, and waltzed in, and the people there didn't know what to do with us. And then we started speaking Chinese with them, and then they really didn't know what to do with us. And it was just one of those experiences that you can't plan. It just happens. And it was really extraordinary. And throughout the trip, I was amazed at just how open-minded they were, how mature they were, and just how good their Chinese was. So it's really a privilege to be so closely involved in a program that helps nurture this type of student. And I look forward to many more opportunities of interaction with all of you. But since you're not graduating yet, that's the alumni panel. What I'll do is I'll hand over the mic to Wang Haiyan, the Assistant Director of the CAPS program, to moderate this student panel.
Hi everyone, nice to be here. My name is Haiyan and I'm the Assistant Director of the program. I've been working with this program since the year of 2009, so it has been more than 6 years. So if there's one thing that I've learned from my past work experience with this program, that is the CAPS is a great program because we have the best students. I was so privileged to meet with and to work with so many students who are young, bright, very ambitious, and very, very hardworking. Some of them knew from the very beginning that they are interested in China and they know what they're going to do after graduation. Some of them might not. They're still kind of hesitant when they came in. I still remember that kind of expressions on their face. I don't know, I'm not sure. But upon graduation, I'm so happy to see them all grow into a very good and fully fledged China person, if not a China scholar. So I'm thrilled to introduce our panel today. We have 5 panelists, and who are the best of our students. No, if I'm not saying the best, I would say they are the students who best exemplifies how excellent a CAP student can be. And we have 2 from the senior class. They are Charles Austin Jordan. Charles, please. And Jin Han Kim, also from the senior class. Welcome. So they both just came back from their spring semester in Beijing, so they are going to have a lot to talk about regarding the Beijing semester. And we also have 3 from the junior class. They came all the way from Washington, D.C. with all of their classmates together with Professor Andy Mercer. So welcome. And the 3 panelists will be Cole DuBois, Cole, Amanda Williams, and Anna Cook. Thank you all for being on the panel. So before we start the panel discussion, I would like each of you to introduce a little bit about yourself. Maybe start from Austin.
My name's Austin. I'm a senior in arts and sciences. I have 2 majors. One is China and Asia Pacific Studies, and the other is mathematics. But mathematics is just a hobby. I just spent a year abroad. I was in DC working at a think tank. And then I was in Cambodia with Professor Bertha. Then I was at Beijing working at the American Embassy. And then DC again over the summer working with the State Department. After this year, it looks like I'll be applying for a couple of different fellowship programs. I'm applying for the Peace Corps and Princeton in Asia. And then after that, hopefully grad school's in my future.
Hello, my name is Jin Han Kim, and I am a senior studying economics, psychology, in addition to CAPS. Like Austin, I'm just back on campus from spending a year abroad, going on a series of adventure in Washington, D.C. and in Beijing. I thought my picture would be up there, so I gave a picture. Oh, it is up there. So I chose this picture, me sitting on the Great Wall, because 1, the sky was super blue that day, which is quite rare in China. And 2, there's a Chinese saying that says, unless you've been to the Great Wall, you're not a real man. And my Chinese name is Zhen Han, as in Zhen the Han, which translates to the real man. As a Cornell Tradition Fellow, I am really passionate about public service, and right now I'm interested in pursuing a career in economic policy, especially that relating to international trade and foreign exchange. Thank you.
Hey guys, my name's Cole DuBois. I am a junior. I'm part of the DC crew right now, so Professor Murtha was kind enough to, oh there he is, was kind enough to deal with the kind of slog down to the District of Columbia and back, and we'll deal with it once again on Sunday, so thank you. Let's see, I'm a government and CAPS double major, so I tend to focus more on the policy side of things. I am one of the folks that Hein mentioned who I had no background in China prior to declaring myself as a CAPS major. I kind of just did it on a whim, and I have not looked back since. Being part of the CAPS program has been one of the defining highlights of my undergraduate career so far. It's brought me to Cambodia, where I ate my first tarantula. It brought me to Taiwan over the summer, where I was working at AIT, the American Institute, and it's brought me to DC now, where I hang out at the State Department, working in the Office of Australia, New Zealand, and Pacific Island Affairs. And it's going to bring me to Beijing next fall. So a lot of fun happening. Thank you guys.
My name is Amanda Williams, and I'm also part of the DC crew, so thank you, Professor Bertha, for driving us down those 6 hours, shuffling us off like dad in a van. So I am in the class of 2017, and I'm also a minor in communications. A lot of people ask me, oh, what are you going to do with China studies and communications? Well, last summer I worked at the Cornell Museum of Glass, just an hour away from here, highly recommended. And I worked on doing a project for them to help create their name in China. So that's kind of what I'm really interested in right now, and I'm interning at the Atlantic Council think tank in their comms department. And so I love working with social media in China. I'm really into that. I'm also all over the place. I mean, I wrote a paper on Tibet for Professor Carlson, so I don't know what I'm going to do in the future, kind of all over the place right now, but I know I wanted to be in China. I've been studying China. I started learning Chinese in high school, and I've never looked back on it since. I did start out as biology, possibly pre-med here at Cornell, but now I'm here, and so I've never been happier.
Hi, my name is Anna Cook. My legal name is Hee-Kyung Cook. I'm Korean, but I grew up in Singapore, and coming into Cornell, I think maybe the Singapore connection made me always interested in international relations, especially with China. So I came into Cornell writing an essay about how obsessed I was with CAPS. And so I already had my mindset on CAPS because I have spent a long time studying the language in Singapore, and I loved everything around the Chinese culture, international relations, politics. So I love CAPS. I'm in DC with these two. I'm going to Beijing next, and I already know that that's going to be the highlight of my 4 years here, so I'm very excited. Right now, I'm interning at Voice of America, so I'm thinking of a career in journalism and communications.
Okay. Thank you all very much. And it sounds like all of you are doing great as a CAP students. You are making impressive progresses. So I'm happy to hear that. Now I have a question for all of you. You are deciding to become a CAPS major because you are more or less interested in China. So what spurred your interest in China initially, and has that been changed over time? You don't have to like go one after the other, just chime in.
So my family has a long history in China. My parents lived in Hong Kong for 20 years, where they bought and sold Chinese antique art. My mother, a Cornell grad, worked for Sotheby's as an auctioneer, and my father ran a private art gallery. My brother and I were born in Hong Kong in 1993, and we lived there for 4 or 5 years before we moved back to Texas. But we spent our summers growing up always traveling back and meeting family, friends, and touring the country. So China has always been, it was part of my childhood. I walk up and down my house with Chinese art everywhere. I'd always be looking at it and curious about it. And my high school in Texas didn't offer Mandarin. We didn't offer any kind of Chinese history, Chinese politics. I'd never really studied it past a chapter or two in world history. And when I got to Cornell, I immediately enrolled in Mandarin. I knew that's what I wanted. I wanted to learn the language, mostly so that I could just speak with my friends in China. And as I started doing it, I was evaluating what do I actually like doing, what do I want to devote my life to. And the idea of getting to study China and travel and do research as a career was extremely appealing. After I think I declared CAPS spring semester of my freshman year, and just immediately knew that this is what I wanted to spend my time doing. That's where it comes from.
I mean, for me, unlike Austin, I did not have much background in China before coming to Cornell, other than the fact that I'm Korean American and my culture background shares a bit from with Chinese culture background. But I was just curious and decided to take Chinese language, so I enrolled in the 1,000 local course. And despite the fact that going to 7 classes in a week was quite a lot, I really liked learning Chinese. So after that year, I decided to spend the summer in Shanghai, and I soon realized that in order to interact with them and further understand them, I'd have to be familiar with the culture, their history, and their social forces. And those experiences, gradually encouraged me to study China further and more in depth.
So my interest in China kind of began during a dark and stormy night in El Centro, California, where I'm from. It's a lovely little border town right in SoCal. If you have a chance to go, make sure you go in December, so it's 90 degrees instead of 120. But I digress. I had always kind of been interested in international relations because kind of international exchange had been part of my reality growing up. My hometown sits right smack up dab against Mexicali, which is the capital of Baja California. So during presidential election years, we'd see more Mexican presidential candidate bumper stickers than U.S. presidential candidate bumper stickers. So that kind of got me going for foreign affairs. And when it came to taking a major at Cornell, I knew I wanted to do something kind of political, but you know, a gov major just didn't seem quite enough to me. It seemed, sorry I keep umming, I'm just thought processing. Oh, there it goes again. The gov major though seemed a little too broad for me. It seemed really theoretical, it seemed very, very kind of above the ground, and I wanted to get kind of into the dirt of something. And CAPS offered that to me. I was just kind of scrolling through the major offerings of the departments at Cornell the summer before my freshman year, happened to come on CAPS, thought, you know what, why not, let's try it out. Went to the departmental open house the week prior to classes starting, hung out with Professor Murtha for a solid half hour, and I was set. And the rest is kind of history. I had a great chat with Professor Murtha, had a great chat with Professor Stephanie Devo, who is here right now.
She's not here.
Okay, but had a great chat with her, and I thought, okay, like there's a great team at CAPS, might as well just kind of go for it. And I went for it, and I've been absolutely over the moon with it ever since.
So my story is a little different, I guess. I'm from Corning, New York, which is, it does have a very great Chinese American population. And a lot of my friends were Chinese. I would go to their house and like their parents make the best food ever. Absolutely loved it. Would always go over second person. And then I was lucky enough in my school district that they offered international baccalaureate classes. For if you don't know, it's like AP but better. We had a Chinese program, a 2-year Chinese program, and it was absolutely fantastic. I had a fantastic teacher. She was from Taiwan, and she would introduce us to everything. She was so excited that she had students that were wanting to learn the language and different cultural experience than just, you know, Spanish and French. Unfortunately, I have to say my school district no longer offers that course, but hopefully I'll get my hands back in there and show them what's up. But and then I came to Cornell as a biology major, actually. Not because I knew that's what I wanted to do, but because I needed to say something in my personal statement. And I came to Cornell because they have so many different options. They have like the weirdest things. Like you can take a class and shoot arrows. Like that's really cool. But you can also like take 4 years in Chinese and do Chinese specific coursework. And I didn't know that's what I wanted to do at the time, but my first class was with Professor Chen Tian, and I talked to him. Yeah. And he was so great, and he really like sold me on CAPS. And so second semester freshman year, after a grueling year of general chemistry, I switched. And yeah, it's been great ever since, and yeah, it's just like cool, never look back.
I feel like I have a very different background from all of these schools. So I grew up in Singapore, like I said, so I was always embedded in this international community. And even though I went to an American school in Singapore, Singapore itself is mostly made out of ethnic Chinese people, and I always grew up in the Chinese culture, celebrated every Mid-Autumn Festival, every New Year, saw every drive-in dance. I was always part of that, and I think that, and I was thrown into mandatory Chinese language courses since my third year in elementary school. So I was always learning the Chinese language, and then one day I realized that China is what I should be studying. So I took courses in high school related to Chinese international relations, and my high school, even though it was an American school, it provided a lot of courses on that. And that was the class that I always worked my hardest for, and that's why I got interested in CAPS at Cornell. And I love CAPS. I'm a government double major actually, but I would say I love CAPS infinitely more than my government major.
Thank you, Anna.
Because I just feel like I never get a close connection with any of the faculty in the government department like I get in CAPS. For example, everything started out with Professor Chen Jian and then Professor Carlson and Professor Murtha. I've always had the chance to have a very close connection to them. I went to Cambodia with Professor Murtha, and I've also had a very close relationship with the fellow CAPS students because there are so few of us. And I think that really helps with my interest cultivated my interest in China.
Thank you, guys. So I understand actually some of you, before you came to Cornell and before you came to CAPS, you already had some like China-related experience, either like growing up in a Chinese cultural setting, or learning Chinese as language, or even taken some like China-related courses. So now my next question is that, what is the most important or most valuable thing about China or about US-China relation that you have learned as a CAP student?
So first of all, I think that this major is very relevant to the world around us. I think the China-US relations is always changing, and it can always change in the future. And the fact that we can play as a factor in affecting that, I think that's what really excites me, the relevancy to the world around us. And especially with President Xi in DC while we were in DC, it's just things like that is just very exciting to me. If I learned anything about the China-US relations through my 3 years here, I feel like the more I learn, I just realize that I will never know everything about the relationship.
Yeah, I would completely agree with Anna. I actually said in my response to this to Haiyan was that engineers think they're the hardest workers here on campus, but like we take 4 years of language classes every single day, and physics doesn't change much, at least that I'm aware. But China's always changing. It changes every day, and we're in the middle of it. Like we get to study this very dynamic relationship that's constantly changing, that's always coming up with something new, and I think that's also what's really special about what we do and what we're learning, because it can change out of that.
I'm going to engage in like a little bit of mild hyperbole, but I'm going to do it anyway. I think programs like CAPS contribute really heavily toward what will be international peace in the 21st century. It's kind of our duty as attempted China scholars to make sure that the relationship between the U.S. and China doesn't go the way of the U.S. and the Soviet Union. It doesn't devolve into a power competition with proxy wars and instability writ large in the global scene. And I think a really, really, really kind of engaged, really well-studied group of China policymakers and China scholars on the American side, and American folks on the Chinese side who are also educated in the way the Americans do things on the policy side and the academic side, are really, really crucial to making sure that the U.S.-China relationship is not only strong but peaceful in the 21st century.
Yeah, and especially because the Sino-US relationship is so important in this century, I learned that having a well-rounded background with China opens up very unexpected opportunities. For me, very fortunately, my internship period as the Council of Economic Advisors coincided with President Obama's visit to Beijing to attend the 2014 APEC summit. So if this year's marking event for the U.S.-China relationship is President Xi's visit, right now, like last year was President Obama's visit to Beijing for the APEC summit, and because I had some background in China, some senior staffs asked me to work on some projects. And I think my works were appreciated by the senior staff because I was able to add some comments that a professional trained solely in economics could easily miss out. For example, when we're looking at looking at the housing construction trend that showed a downward sloping slope, a simple conclusion is that, oh, the housing market in China is slowing down. But for me, I was able to add that, after years or even decades of, very intensive and concentrated capacity expansion in construction market, Chinese factories that produce industrial outputs are now really underutilized, and that they impose, a great financial burden on the government that is forced to provide subsidies. And comments like these were not just, focusing on economics, but rather it drew insights from their history and the problem was now even bigger for them because it wasn't just an economic problem, it was their political problem and it was a social problem. And I feel like CAPS program has really trained me to view a problem and a phenomenon from a very well-rounded perspective.
For me, the CAPS program has kind of shed light on just how much misinformation is out there on China.
For example?
So, I mean, when just this week in an interview, I was asked, what do you think China's going to look like in 25 years? And the best response I had was like, wow, this could look like so many different things. Nobody really knows, but people seem to really want a clear-cut answer, and that's where the value of this education comes in. You're able to finesse the contours and say that there's a lot of different things that China could end up being in the next 25, 40 years. And here are all the possibilities, here's what we might expect. I think being the CAPS program, the most valuable aspect of it has just been going to the country, living there, working there. I had ideas of what I thought China was before this, and then after going, you spend time there and realize, wow, it's so many different things, how you package it into one. Especially, I really value the travel aspect of it. We went all over China last semester when I was there. Just seeing so many different facets of Chinese culture and Chinese life, that's been really eye-opening for me.
Thanks, Austin. So Jinhan just gave us a very good example of how CAPS experience would benefit him in internship. So could the other of you throw in more examples about your internship experience that your CAPS experience has benefited?
Well, mine is less policy related, but right now I'm working at the Voice of America, and I feel like I get so much more work and opportunity because I'm able to interact with the Mandarin service there, which is one of their biggest services, and I'm able to speak Chinese and English, so I'm just translating everything for everyone. Yeah, so they take advantage of me and they work me, but I mean, I love it. I love the fact that they're taking advantage of me and that I get so much work, so that's pretty helpful.
I am interning at the Atlantic Council in the Commerce Department. So once in a while, something to edit a piece on China will go by my, desk, I guess. They just throw things out there and just edit this. But also it's been a great experience because also in a place that doesn't have a specific China center, a lot of think tanks have a specific center just dedicated to China, but the Atlantic Council has a lot of different experts in different areas that contribute to some China focus. So I think also, like my other peers here were saying, is that as a CAP student, I can give a more rounded comments on papers that they write, just in general, because they're looking at it from a very specific point of view, the point of view that they've been trained in. But since we're so well-rounded in our China studies, I guess you could say we don't see the full picture, but we can give some comments into different aspects of each area.
So I hung out in the consular section of the American Institute in Taiwan over the summer, and I was one of only about 2 interns in the section that they could actually kind of throw up at the windows to communicate with folks who are trying to get visas because of the Chinese language skills that CAPS provides to all of its students. There were a lot of folks, even in the political and economic sections, who could not speak Mandarin. So when it came to engaging with the press, when it came to talking to individual applicants, and the really, really, really kind of extensive dual citizen population in Taiwan between US and Taiwanese citizens, they kind of relied on, folks like myself and other folks who had gone through programs in undergrad and grad school that really, really, really went the extra mile to teach them Chinese language skills to actually get the job done. So I kind of learned just how important it is to know how to speak Chinese when dealing with Chinese-speaking people. And that was my summer.
Yeah, I want to add to how important knowing how to read Chinese is. So we were